بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والحمد لله رب العالمين. And now we have the cost-based pricing model. The cost-based, it means the most valuable thing in pricing our goods and services, it's the cost itself. We want to consider the cost items, analyze them, know them, try to think deeply about what are the sources of cost we have. And we have some models that guide us in order to do this. Finally, if you calculate your cost properly, you can estimate your prices in the market if we have something in the middle, which is the revenue expectations or revenue calculations. So the most valuable thing, it's the cost. And all organizations have this challenge. If you don't control your cost, you are not going to compete in the market, so you could have a lower market share or not able to survive in the market, which is full of competition. The models that we will talk about, starting with cost markup pricing model. This one talks about the cost plus markup. So we have the price. It's a very simple one. We will talk about it. Another model, which is the margining pricing model. The margining it means we have a margin. So this margin with the price minus the margin, we have the cost. It's another way for looking nearly the same formula, but this one starts with the cost, this one starts with the price. The cost plus the market, the revenue, this one starts with the price minus the revenue. Another model we have the rate of return pricing model. It's the rate on investment, return on investment, return on rate of return. It means the percentage that we can have when we invest our money in a certain industry. So we're expecting to make some kind of revenue for our owners or stakeholders. So what is the rate of return expected by them or accepted by them or expected in the market in this sector? So this rate of return, this is how we can price our commodities inside the market. Another one talks about the reverse pricing analysis. I'm doing the prices in the market according to a reverse analysis. It means we go to the cost components and try to think about the suppliers' components and sources of cost and try to take each item by itself and try to analyze it to understand carefully how much really is the cost, the real cost of each component of the supplier, until we have the cost of the commodity that we will purchase from the supplier. It means, for example, we have A, B, C component from the suppliers. They cost $1, $2, $3, so we have $6. So this is why we purchase it for $7, because it costs 1, 2, 3. the components A, B, C. We can negotiate the idea with the suppliers. Item number C costs you $3. Why not to do this modifications with your procedures in order to make it $2? It means 1, 2, 2, so we have the commodity plus the revenue, which is 1, so we have it not for 7, it's for $6. So this is what we say, it's the reverse pricing analysis. We go back to the prices and the cost of the suppliers, and we'll try to analyze it and try to control these cost items to have the benefit reflected in our cost invoice. We have another one, which is break-even analysis. The break-even analysis is a component that is very famous, and by itself multiple subjects teach the break-even analysis or break-even point. I prefer to have it in a separate lecture in order to make these models are clear enough in this lecture. So when we say the cost-based pricing model, we have it in 2 lectures. This is lecture number 1 that talks about these models. So this is lecture number 1, and this is lecture number 2 about the cost-based pricing model. We have it in number 2 that talks about the break-even analysis. Let's start with the first lecture that talk about the whole models in the cost-based pricing model. The cost-based pricing model, it's an alternative of the market pricing-based model that we talked about previously. We have multiple elements in the cost, and any suppliers is trying to analyze his cost of the materials, of the labor, of the work, of the overhead, operation cost, anything we think of, the administrative cost, you think about the profit margin, you think about the marketing or the sales cost. We have multiple cost items. So when we are thinking about purchasing, our specifications is to analyze these cost items and try to pay more attention for them, because finally it is reflected in the price of commodities that we will purchase or services that we will receive. So any buyer will perform a deeper analysis with these cost items. Here we have multiple models that makes the idea simpler and easier for us to understand. Starting with model number 1, cost markup pricing model. Simply, the price of any commodity starts with how we can formulate the price. It tells you, give me the cost number plus percentage of markup that we are looking to achieve. Finally, I'll give you the price. For example, we have here the cost of things that we will purchase. The total cost is 50 English pounds, and we have a markup of 20%. So the price is 50 multiplied by 120%, which means the 60 English pounds. So the price of our commodities in the market is that price. Increasing the cost of our purchases with another 30% will lead the price to be higher with about 18 English pounds, and finally we have the cost of 78 pounds. So it's a very simple formula. Give me the cost number, give me the markup percentage, I'll give you the final price. This is relying heavily on the cost as the main component of the price. Component of the price, we can analyze it. Think about the direct materials, the direct labor, the production overhead, the selling and administrative cost, and the profit margin. So these things, we have them in a form of a cost. We have the direct cost. The 3 items are the direct cost. we have this one is the indirect cost, we have the supplier's total cost when we have these 4 items, and finally add the profit margin, we can think about the price charge in the market. Model number 2, talking about the margin pricing model. Margin, it means give me the price in the market, multiply it by 1 minus profit margin, I'll give you the cost. If it's suitable for you to produce your goods and commodities with this cost, so go start your business. So this formula is the vice versa of the previous one. Here we start with the price, multiplied by 1 minus profit margin, that also is stated at the beginning. I'll give you the cost that you're looking for. So when we say the price, how much does it mean? It means the cost divided by 1 minus profit margin. For example, I want to settle the price of something that is costing us about 50 English pounds. Divided by 1 minus 20%, so the price will be 62.5 English pounds. This formula makes the price of the commodity is higher than the previous one. Because why? Here we have the cost, the margin, the profit margin is not added to the cost. The previous one have the profit margin added to the cost. This one we have the profit margin out of the selling price. Say 20% of commodity cost $20, or 20% of commodity are sold for $30. Again, something you purchase it for $20 and you sell it for $30. So the 50%, when you add it to the $20, it means $30. The 50% divided, or we have the 30% out of, take it out of it, the 50%, which is the profit margin, the cost will be lower. A third model talks about the rate of return pricing model. Rate of return, here we are thinking about the return on investment that we will make. For example, we have money to be invested. It's 300,000 English pounds multiplied by expected rate of return of about 20%. So this is the money we expect to generate as profit, divided by the number of units we are producing. We are producing about 4,000 units. So the profit we are making, which is about 60,000 English pounds, divided by 4,000 units. So this exactly the profit that we will increase, that will generate from our investment. This profit added to the cost, the operating cost, we have it. So we have the final cost, which is 65 English pounds. Again, the cost, it's the cost, the 50 English pounds. But what is different here, we want to generate 20% from our investment in facility, for example, purchasing some factories, some machines in a factory that costs about 30,000 English pounds. So we want to generate 20% of this amount of money invested, divided by how many units were produced, about $4,000, 4,000 units. I'm sorry. So we have here the amount of profit from the total big profit, the amount of profit for each piece, for each component, for each product. Add this to the cost of each product, it means finally the final price, which is 65 English pounds. Model number 4 estimated supplier cost using what we say reverse price analysis. What do we mean by reverse price analysis? Considers all the components of the price to check a quoted value. It means have a breakdown of all the components of the cost of the supplier. It means if we can make improvements with the way of production with the supplier, we can decrease the cost of the components, and finally the final good produced by the supplier will be cheaper in price. Here we can think about the modifications in quantities, in quality, think we have about the technology, think about the ways of operations, ways of doing the work inside the factory of the supplier. This analysis breaks down the quoted price into its components of materials, labor, overhead, and profits. So we can make analysis of each item by itself to understand the details in each one and to think about reasonable motives or work we can do in order to lower these price components and produce with lower cost with the supplier's facility. If we were to think about the service side, what happens with the producing the tangible products happens also with the service side. The price analysis can often estimate the supplier's cost from publicly available information. So we can have these ideas in mind before we can purchase from the supplier. We want to give you a simple example. Managers can start by considering the amount of producing a price of each unit, which is 20 English pounds. We want to make some kind of analysis of this cost and how we can control the cost items included in this price. These estimations can, thinking about the cost of the material, again, what happens with lowering the cost of the labor, and thinking about the overhead and how we can control the cost of the overhead. Adding together all these costs, it means lowering the total cost for the component produced by the supplier. This table is summarizing the whole discussion that was before, starting with the price. You told me that the price is 20. Okay, and the profit we are going to generate is about $3, which is reflected by 15% of the unit price, which is $3. So what is remaining, which is $17, this is the subtotal of the whole cost of the supplier. Breaking down this 17, we have $4 for the material, $13 is the subtotal, yes, and we have $3 for the labor. So the operating burden is $10. So we can break down the $10 into pieces and components to understand exactly the $10 goes for what areas. If we can make modifications of making teamwork, and the die cost is not $3, is $2.50, it means the whole price will decrease by $0.50. If we can do the same with the components, purchase the material with lower prices, we can have special discounts, we can make some modifications in production with these materials components, make them not $4, $3, it means the whole price will decrease again with $1. So this is what we say, it's the reverse side. It's the reverse pricing analysis. Going back to the origins, try to make modifications with the origins, and finally we have the prices are controlled because of the components cost are controlled. What secrets we have in mind in order to control the components prices, the components cost, how we can make the cost of these components lower than before, to have the final price of the supplier is lower than before. Think about facilities utilization, best use of the supplier's facilities, the supplier's machines and tools and equipments and places and storage areas. Think about process capabilities, how we can do the production process, how many machines we have the components are entering, what kind of operations is performed on the materials. If you make them smaller, fewer, faster, cheaper, with less energy, with less fuel, with less problems, you are making the cost of these process capabilities lower than before. Think about learning curve effects that affects the HR, the labor working with you. The learning curve, it means people who are doing the work during the time are getting higher knowledge in their work specialization, so they are faster in doing the work. It means they are producing more with the same salary. So this means the cost, the labor cost for each component, for each cost item is lower than before. Number 4, think about the supplier's workforce. If we have learned workforce, we have higher productivity of the workers. So we can have lower number of workers. We can think about lowering number of employees. Think about the admin and the marketing and the operational workers. All of them consumes resources, and they are cost items in the supplier's work. So why not to decrease these numbers of people so we can decrease the cost and control the cost of the workforce and the labor. Management capability. The management skills is very essential for the organization, but it's the same thing, it's a very costly item in the organization. It means sources of cost, according to the management, they are very expensive list of cost of the supplier. If we have more products produced by the company, it means the cost items, the management cost items for each of these components is lower than before. Having most valuable utilization of the management capabilities means higher productivity and lowering the cost item of each component, of each unit produced. Finally, we have purchasing efficiency. Yes, if we can have efficient operations, efficient purchases, we can purchase more with less money, or can we have special discounts or better quality, and finally, the components produced are less in cost. So this is the most important benefit of the reverse pricing analysis, is to go back to the origins and know the cost items of the supplier, try to manage them, try to control them, and finally you have your cost items controlled. Going back to the list, we covered multiple models with the cost-based pricing model. We talk about the markup, how we can add it to the cost. We talk about the pricing margin, how we can deduct it from the cost. We talk about the rate of return. Think about the rate that you expect to have from your investment, and the reverse pricing model. We are not going forward, but we are going backwards to understand how the supplier is working in his facilities and how we can better do our work by providing support for the suppliers. This is part 1 of the cost-based pricing model, wait for us for the upcoming lecture that talks about the part 2 of cost-based pricing model that talks about the break-even analysis, which is very famous and very simple. Thank you very much for your attention, and see you again.